Welcome to the Mindful Mama podcast, where you can learn to be a nice, awesome mom.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, Maggie. Thank you.
Yeah. Did you get lipstick on my face?
You're listening to the Mindful Mama podcast, episode 76. Today, we're talking all about the family mindfulness retreat I went on. Welcome to the Mindful Mama podcast. Here, it's about becoming a less irritable, more joyful parent. A mindful mama, we know that you cannot give what you do not have. And when you are thriving, when you have calm and peace within, then you can give it to your children. I'm your host, Hunter Clarke-FIELDS, Mindfulness Mama Mentor. I coach overstressed moms on how to cultivate self-awareness in their daily lives and to take family and life to a new level of awakening. I've been practicing yoga and mindfulness for over 20 years, and I'm the creator of the Mindful Parenting course, and I'm the mom of 2 girls, ages 7 and 10. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so glad you're here. As you may know, I've been upping the frequency of the podcast lately. I'm wondering if you like that. You should let me know over on Facebook, Hunter C Yoga, or just email me at hunter@hunteryoga.com. I'd love to know. This is a very cool podcast. You may know that I went on our second family mindfulness retreat, and this is going to be all about that. So it's a solo episode. I recorded my reflections about the retreat just a few days after I got back, so they were really fresh. And so you get to hear that today, and I go into detail. So if you're curious, you can hear about this retreat and the cool things we did. It was really nourishing, and some of my takeaways, which have been very valuable to me anyway. And actually, I think they've been helping with my clients and things like that. So that's pretty cool. I hope you really enjoy this episode. Next time, we're going to be back with my friend Carla Naumberg, so stay tuned for that. If you're enjoying the podcast, I really encourage you to subscribe and to leave a review on iTunes. And you can do that really easily. I haven't gotten any new reviews this week, so I don't have any to report, sadly. But you can do that right on iTunes. You can go to the podcast app on your phone, search for the Mindful Mama podcast, and then clicking on it, and you'll see there's this little box, and there you can click on reviews. And it says, in purple, it says write a review. So please go ahead and write a review for me. That would help enormously. Coming up around here, we are preparing for the Mindful Parenting course. The live version is going to be starting in September. And you may know that I have the self-study version on my website, but what's really different about the live version is that you get 8 weeks of live coaching. And this is a really valuable part of the course. And, I had requests from people to, please do a self-study version. And I did it, but I almost didn't want to, because this is such an in-depth course with so much learning in there that it can be hard to do it on your own. And it's really valuable to get the input from other moms, to hear that you're not alone, to hear other people going through things, and to get the live coaching so that we can strategize about your particular position, or we can talk about some stuff that's coming up for you. So it's really, really valuable. So even if you've done the self-study version, I'm going to offer you an option to be able to join the live coaching. And so this is all coming up starting in September. So keep an eye out for that. I am taking some clarity calls, to talk about one-on-one coaching, which is ongoing, and that is to just really take you to the next level. So if you're interested in that, you can go and check it out at hunterclarkefields.com, Clark with an E, Fields with an S, and go over to the Work With Me page. So anyway, on to this episode. So 2 days ago, my family and I got back from the family retreat at Blue Cliff Monastery. And I wanted to share it with you here on the podcast because it's a pretty interesting thing to do. It's a pretty unusual thing for families to do. And I got a lot out of it in terms of my parenting and my mindfulness practice that I want to share with you. So first, let me tell you what it is, right? So Blue Cliff Monastery is a monastery where monks and nuns in the tradition of Thich Nhat Hanh live there, and they practice mindfulness, and they put on retreats for families, for educators, etc. And then they have times of the year where they're, quietly practicing their own mindfulness practice. And Thich Nhat Hanh is an incredible teacher. He's my teacher. I've mentioned him a lot. You might recognize the quote that I use from Thai, which is the word for dear teacher, right? Which is when you love someone, the best thing you can offer them is your presence. How can you love if you are not there? And he has so many other amazing quotes that he's quoted often. But this is my personal spiritual tradition, right? This is where Thich Nhat Hanh is. I read one of his first books that inspired me to start my own mindfulness practice and to help relieve my own suffering, as a younger person in my 20s. So this is a monastery. And what happens with the family retreat is that for 7 days, all these families come to the monastery. So 200 people came to this retreat, which is really big, including 50 teenagers. So all these teenagers come too, and children. There were probably about 50 children as well, and parents, and also individuals. And it's up in the Catskills of New York, and it's a secluded place. They got to name their road, so they are on Mindfulness Road, and there's a big meditation hall, and there's dining halls, and it's kind of like a camp, I guess. People were camping, and my family and I stayed in a family bunk dorm, so we had bunk beds, and there's no Wi-Fi and no TV and no computers, but they have programs for teens, for kids, and for adults. So they have separate programs for teens, kids, and adults. And then we come together and do some things like the meals and things like that. And of course, there are monks and nuns there. So, the monks and nuns are they come from all around the world, and they've got brown robes and they've got shaved heads. So this is like not your typical summer camp, I guess you might say, because there's this aspect, right, of the monks and nuns. But so what it is everybody comes and people are interested in mindfulness. They have to get to the point of sort of learning about this retreat. They've dived into sort of the world, and many people belong to a local sangha or practice community, a group of mindfulness practitioners. And I also belong to a sangha, and that's where I learned about the retreat. So you maybe in the show notes, I can share some resources where you could find a sangha if you're interested in that. And also people come from, the people who go, people come from all faith traditions, right? So this happens to be my own personal spiritual tradition, but or at least adopted spiritual tradition. I grew up agnostic anyway, but people come from all faith traditions. People come who don't choose to practice any faith, particularly. Oops, there's my computer making noises, people. And people who, there was a wonderful couple who run a retreat center in Brazil, who I loved getting to know, who are Catholic, and their kids are Catholic. So there's all kinds of families of different faiths. There's the LGBT community is represented there. There was, a trans woman there, and there's gay families with their kids there. And there's also individuals there, people who just come. And there are individuals who are just kind of staying at the monastery for a while too. So it brings together all these people who are interested in mindful living, in taking the practice of mindfulness and bringing it into your everyday life. And that's really what they focus on there. So is this like, family Buddhist mindfulness summer camp, more or less, right? So why did we go, right? Our family, we went to the retreat 2 years ago. And then last year we decided to go to my hometown of Bristol, Rhode Island's big 4th of July parade. And this year we decided to go again because well, I was sort of the big driver that I really wanted to go, but my daughters loved it as well, and my husband wanted to go. We all wanted to go because we wanted to take time out of our lives to reset, right? To reset our pace. So the idea of any retreat is that you're just taking time out. You're kind of pushing pause on your life, pushing the pause button, and taking the time for rest. I mean, to really rest, right? There was almost every afternoon, they did this deep relaxation. It was wonderful. So everybody went to the great big hall, which is this beautiful hall with all these open windows, and you can hear the birds chirping and fresh breezes coming through. And you put out these cushions, and they lead you through a guided relaxation. And for many, many of us, it's kind of like nap time, where we just take a nap, and it's so relaxing to be able to do that, right? But that's one of the reasons we went there, is to rest, right, and also to renew our commitment to mindfulness. So we go there to rest, to pause, to take time where it's so nice to go somewhere where you're not cooking the meals. You don't have to decide the itinerary. You don't have to decide where to go. You just arrive there, and then we all help out. Like, we help out the cleaning the dishes and all sort of different jobs around the monastery for mindful working. But even the spirit of working is done in a spirit of rest. Like, we're not going to hurry. We're going to practice to generate joy while we're working. And the other reason why we went is to share our practice with our children. So, it's really wonderful that they have this children's program. And I actually really like that it's separate, because sometimes it can be hard for our children to sort of learn. Sometimes when we're in the space, they tend to fall into old patterns, and they don't like to learn things from us, right? Or have us telling them what to do. But when they get into a situation where we're not there, and there's other loving, caring adults, then they sometimes can be more open-minded. So what did they do with the children? It was cool. So every morning we would wake up, and my husband and I would go to the meditation, or I would go early, like 6 a.m. meditation, and it could be a guided meditation or a silent meditation. And then I found a running buddy, which was really great. Shout out to Martha. And afterwards, so we did some exercise. The monks and nuns led people through either yoga, or you could do tai chi, or there was this like stick exercise, which is kind of neat, that I tried. And then of course I found my running buddy. We did this 4-mile run. Woohoo! Pat on my own back. So we would have that time, and then we would get together for breakfast. So we'd get our children, because our girls are old enough to just sort of sleep through all that, and then we'd go get them for Bill would get them while I did my exercise, and we'd go have breakfast together. And we had a big tent outside to hold these people, and we had breakfast, and then after breakfast there was some free time, or it might be some work time if you were chopping vegetables. And then they had the children's program. What we first did, we all went to the Great Hall, and there was a Dharma talk, or a talk about the teachings of mindfulness, the teachings of the Buddha, for the children, and then the children would leave and go to their program. And the cool thing about this program for children that I really like is that they teach them about mindfulness in a really gentle, really loving way, but they do teach them, and they teach them snack meditation, which is great. So in the mindful parenting class, actually, course that I teach, there's one of the first practices we do is a practice about mindful eating, because it's such a great introduction to mindfulness, because it really shows you very palpably and with your taste buds, how different your mindfulness practice is from sort of our everyday distracted way of being. And so they teach that with the children, which is really cool. They did tangerine meditation, which I think is beautiful. And so these volunteers and monks and nuns, they do the children's program, and they are so gentle and loving and kind, and they teach them how to invite the bell, and how to stop and breathe mindfully, which is pretty neat, and they also run around and do crazy games too. But they did nature walks, and the kids would catch frogs in the lotus pond, and they would then my girls went into the woods and made fairy houses, and they learned these beautiful songs. They teach the kids these beautiful songs, songs about breathing in and breathing out, and songs about nature and appreciating the sun and the rain and the flowers. And the other thing that my girls did, as far as this is sort of another reason why we went, right, is sharing this practice with our children, is our girls did this thing called the 2 promises, and they made like a little vow to develop their understanding and to develop their compassion, right? And it really is beautiful, because it goes sort of hand in hand with what I teach with my coaching, and with in the mindful parenting course, which is sort of the 2 the wings of mindfulness, right, are awareness and compassion, right? Awareness, understanding what is going on with the other person, what is going on with the other being. Like, let's have understanding beyond just ourselves, see other people suffering, that practice of empathy. And then compassion, also practice of empathy. What is how can I care for other living beings, right? Which I think is so beautiful. So they did this 2 promises. There's a song where they learn about the 2 promises, and they do fill out a sheet where they write about themselves, and then they give them a Dharma name, which I think is so cool. So this is a Dharma just means the teachings of the Buddha, the teachings of the way out of suffering. And they were given a name that, it's interesting because it actually really suited they had gotten to know them over these 7 days, and it really suited who they are as people, which I think is so beautiful. So my 7-year-old Sora, her Dharma name that she was given was Radiant Spring of the Heart, which is so beautiful, because she is like a spring, where she's got freshness bubbling forth from her, and they could see that, which I think is so beautiful. And my oldest daughter, Maggie, her Dharma name that she was given was Peaceful Place of the Heart. And I think that's so beautiful, because she really, and I think they could see this, right, that she needs a place that is peaceful. And often for her, it's her books and resting and kind of taking a step back from her sort of enthusiastic outward movement into the world, but she needs that time to rest, and she needs that peaceful place. So it was so appropriate. So they were a little reticent about trading the 4th of July fireworks and the big parade and everything to go on retreat. But I have to say, they had an amazing time. They really loved it. They really thrived. They had no screens, no Wi-Fi, no TV, no computers for a week, and they had a fabulous time. They just blossomed. And that was really, really beautiful to see. They made friends and they had a lot of freedom just to be kids and to just be in nature and to play and a very safe place to run around. So it was nice for them to have lots of freedom in that way. You know, I would say, I'm going to go and rest in the shade of these trees and read my book. And they'd say, okay, I'm going here. And it was totally fine. Very safe, gentle place to be. Yet, they didn't have to worry too much about 4th of July, but I'll get to that. Hold on. So the other reasons why we went for personal reflection, right? And this idea of we went to have a place and a time to come home to ourselves, right? So in our daily lives, we are so much going forward. We're getting things done. We're doing and doing and doing. And this was really a time to stop and to just be, right? To come home to ourselves. So part of what we practiced again and again and again was pausing and just breathing and dropping in our attention dropping into myself, right? So what does that mean? That means to drop into my body. And you can even, if you're not driving, you might be able to do this right now. You just breathe and you sort of draw your attention down into your heart, your chest. You draw your attention into your body and you take a rest, right? Take a rest from the mind's chatter, from the mind's storytelling and meaning making and problem solving and planning and all that stuff. You just soften from that. Just take a rest from that. And so we practice that again and again. Whenever someone invited the bell, we would all pause and drop into ourselves and breathe. And it was just such a deeply nourishing practice to be able to do this many times a day, to be encouraged to do this many times a day, instead of like the encouragement that we have in our own lives, which is this sort of encouragement to just go, go, go all the time, to get things done, to buy more stuff, to, we get this encouragement from our media to never feel like we're good enough until we have the next thing. And here it was actually quite the opposite. It was a practice of let's just stop and pause, drop into ourselves, and just appreciate what is here and now, right? Appreciating this present moment, appreciating this beautiful flower, appreciating the fact that I am alive and I am breathing. Holy moly, it's amazing, right? So we came there to do that, right? To have this time and this encouragement to pause and to rest. And we did pause many times a day, and we are actually encouraged to even walk slowly, right? To give ourselves enough time to not have to hurry, to slow down our walking and appreciate what's around us, the animals, the birds, the flowers, the trees. And there were all these cool animals there. Like, I actually had this really cool moment when it was after the meditation in the morning. We had some time before breakfast, and I met Bill back at our bunk, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna, and I went down to the pond. So they had a pond that was kind of in the wood down a hill, surrounded by some trees, really beautiful pond. And so I went down to the pond and I just stood there, and it was early morning and the frogs were croaking. It was really cool, very peaceful and quiet. and the water was so still. It was really nice. I just could rest there, right? Get that sense of rest that I'm talking about. But then it was funny. So I heard this like hacking coughing behind me. and sort of crunching on some of the gravel. And this monk came, and I think his name is I'm gonna mangle his Vietnamese name. So his name is, I think, Brother Emptiness or something like that. But anyway, he's an older monk, and he's a really cool guy. He's got a great sense of humor, and he's been a teacher and a monk with Thich Nhat Hanh for a long time. Anyway, he comes hacking down the path, and he walks up, and he has a bag of stale bread in his hand. And so there's this little wooden platform right at the pond where I was standing, and he comes onto that. And so he gestured to me, and we got the bread, and he made a little spot to sit, and I crouched down, and we started to feed the fish together. And it was so cool. All these fish came, they were practically jumping out of the water. And there were catfish that came, and there were two beautiful koi, gold and white fish that came, and we saw them suck in the bread. And then he pointed in the water to show me, and I saw this mottled head come up, and it was this I was like, oh my gosh, what is this? A scary snake. And I was like, what is that? He's like, a turtle. And I was like, oh, it was this turtle. And so apparently there are 3 turtles in the pond, and so this turtle also came, and it was just really beautiful. My girls saw a deer, and there were bunnies, and it just seemed like all the animals knew that this was a very peaceful, safe place. They only serve vegetarian, in fact, vegan food there. So the animals were well in their range of safety, and that was really nice. Also, like I said, there was this choice for our family to skip the big 4th of July parade that I grew up with in Bristol, Rhode Island. It's a big parade, it takes 3 hours to go by, and it's 3 miles long, and it's the whole town goes crazy. It's really wild and fun, and I grew up with that, so I'm kind of used to this level of celebration for the 4th of July. I mean, in fact, there's concerts and carnivals, and it just goes on for weeks. And I was a little worried about 4th of July, because this is something that's in my blood, that I want a good 4th of July celebration. And I have this patriotism in this way. And so I woke up on 4th of July, and the 4th of July I think they celebrate the holidays this way, is like a lazy day, right? Where there's not much planned. There was actually like a mindful parenting workshop planned at 10, but there really wasn't much else planned, but there was an evening thing. And so on 4th of July, I put on my blue shirt with white words, and I had my necklace with red on it. So I'm wearing my red, white, and blue, and I'm kind of going through and missing my family now because it's 4th of July. Excuse me. And my one remaining grandfather is home with my parents at this Bristol 4th of July location. And in fact, even the smell at the monastery, like the smell of the mountains there, it smelled like my grandfather's home in New Hampshire. It really reminded me of the pine smell and things like that. So I was kind of feeling really sentimental. Anyway, so 4th of July is there, and I'm kind of looking around, and nobody's wearing red, white, and blue. It's a little bit of the antithesis of the Bristol 4th of July parade. In fact, there was this one woman who was wearing a red shirt and white pants and had a blue shirt tied around her waist. I said, "Oh, you're wearing red, white, and blue." She's like, "Oh, look at that. I happen to be wearing red, white, and blue." Like she hadn't planned it. I was like, "Oh." But anyway, so the morning is going by, and we had this wonderful workshop, like I said, and I was on pot washing duty or plate drying, we all shared this in a group where we shared this work. It's not hard. But at one point I had this really hard time where I was struggling, where there was a bookshop where they sold ice cream bars and stuff like that. And the girls were going to go get one, and they were going to, and I wanted one too. This is 4th of July. I at least want like an ice cream bar. I'm going to be eating all this tofu, right? And so I wanted this ice cream bar. But then they asked me, can you scrub the pot? So I was like, okay. So I go on pot scrubbing duty again, which is, it's not exactly like the funnest thing in the world to do, is scrub some pots. And so there's this one point where I really struggled, where I thought I wasn't going to get my ice cream, and I was on pot scrubbing, and I had this moment of like these thoughts of like, oh, this is my 4th of July. No red, white, and blue, no flag, and I'm scrubbing pots. And then a friend in the kitchen who was helping said, oh, Hunter, like, you're the greatest pot scrubber or something. I think he was kind of ribbing me a little, and I just gave him like the evil eye because I was not happy about that at that moment. But I breathed and I practiced to just feel my feeling, feel my disappointment, right? And just expand, right? Allow myself to expand into that moment and breathe, and also notice what else was going on, and just allow that feeling to be there and not try to fight it, and just notice it. And so I was able to kind of surf that wave. This is kind of how we think about it, right? Like, we're always going to have the waves of challenges. I mean, not that that was like a huge challenge, but anyway, we always have these waves of challenges, and we're not going to stop the waves, but we can learn to surf. So I surfed. And then, as I was on kind of my last pot, my daughters come right into the kitchen. They're like, "Mommy, here's and they brought me this like chocolate, coconut, yummy ice cream bar. And I was so excited. And I had just had one pot left. And then this wonderful guy said, oh, here, I will do this pot for you. And so I got to go eat my ice cream. So I was a little relieved. And then things improved. There was a car that drove by with an American flag, which I was kind of happy about. In my hometown, you always see like tons of these like flag cars. And I was happy to see this flag car there. And then we had this beautiful ceremony in the evening. So after dinner, everybody was invited to the Great Hall. And as we walked in, there was this incredible, beautiful singing by this one nun who sings like an angel, just incredibly beautiful, beautiful singing. And then we had this, all the children were there too. And then we went out, and a group had made a whole bunch with colored paper flower lanterns. And they were kind of like these paper flower cups. And they had a candle inside, and they had lit the candles, and they were all handing it to us. And we did this peace walk, right? Because they were kind of celebrating Interdependence Day, where we are all interdependent, right? With each other. We actually all depend on each other. We have to recognize, right, that we are interdependent as well as independent, right? Anyway, so we had all the children and all the adults were given these beautiful colored lantern flowers, and we did this silent peace walk. It was so, so beautiful. And then one of the nuns had written the word peace in beautiful handwriting in a circle in mulch on the lawn in front of this circular lotus pond in front of the Great Hall. And so we put the lanterns all on the mulch. So what happened was that it was all these colorful candle flower lanterns that wrote out the word peace. It's so, so beautiful. I'll have to put a picture in the show notes for you. And it was gorgeous. So the sun was setting, and we had this beautiful peace thing. And then we had to wait for it to get dark because they actually put on fireworks, which made me really happy. So we waited for it to get dark around this lotus pond, and I heard across the pond group of people singing like I think it was America the Beautiful or something. So I was so excited because these songs had been going through my head all day because of my, upbringing in this really, really patriotic town. And so I started singing with them, and then I went over to them and we sang America the Beautiful. We sang It's a Grand Old Flag. And then it was really great. It was so serendipitous as we sang the Star Spangled Banner, and we got to that point where it's like, and the rocket's red glare. That's when the fireworks started in the field where the fireworks were, and this firework went off. It was so perfect timing, and we all went over, and I have to confess, I did actually run over with my children because I was so excited. Well, most of the adults were sort of walking and the children were running, but I was running too. And they had a, sort of a do not cross line and then about 100 feet down the field, the monks were mindfully putting off fireworks, and it was actually a really good fireworks show. I was very impressed, and that's a lot coming from me. So it was a really very satisfying, very fulfilling 4th of July. It really felt wonderful to be there. We didn't have to drive home through the fireworks traffic. We just, walked to our bunk after, and it was such a beautiful, beautiful way to celebrate. I really, really loved that. And then after that, we had, 2 more days, and we had I guess my daughters would chastise me if I neglected to tell you about the be-in. So we had these 2 more days of rest and quiet, and we also had these Dharma sharing groups where a group of people were assigned to sort of sit together, and we got to share and talk to one another in a really deep and true way. And this is something that's really incredibly special about this retreat, is that you're there without, quote unquote, entertainment, without your TV, your phone, without alcohol. I like my glass of wine at night, without any of those things. And the thing is that we all become, in some ways, so relaxed, right? So at peace with ourselves and comfortable, and just like really there, really present and at ease, that it's really fun. Like, people are very open and funny, adults are silly with each other in a way, and really accepting. And so it's really joyful to be around people without kind of the layers of defenses and distraction that we have in our everyday life. And it's kind of sad, I think, in some ways, that we have those layers of defenses and distraction normally. So it was really, really nourishing to be in a place where we didn't have all those defenses, It was really beautiful. And then, the be-in. So, and then on our last night there's this be-in where we all went to the Great Hall, and people did songs and skits, and the children's group did a skit called the Buddha and the Beast, and people sang songs. And my pot washing group, we had done a song, and they had this song that we had learned like one of the first days called No Mud, No Lotus, which is an incredibly beautiful sentiment, and saying like, no mud, no lotus, meaning the lotus flower, right? The lotus symbolizes the fruit of enlightenment, right? The flowering of awakening, or the end of suffering, right? The end of suffering, and just being really fully here and present, and letting go of all, enlightenment, nirvana. But the lotus flower, it has its roots in the mud, meaning it has its roots in like the compost, in the rotting, decayed things, right? And we all have mud. We have regrets, we have anger, we have fears, we have worries, we have doubts. And this is our mud. And if we take it, it can be compost, right? We can take this mud and take our suffering and turn it into compost to help us awaken, to help us have more compassion and more awareness. It can really, because we have that suffering, it can help us. It can be what we practice to help us bloom and blossom. So it's really this beautiful, beautiful sentiment that really is very deep to me. And anyway, there's a song, No Mud, No Lotus. And so what we did is, I'm not like a great singer, but I'll sing you a little bit of it. So we changed the words a little, which you'll hear in the second line. It goes, no mud, no lotus, no lotus, no mud, no pot, no dinner, no dinner, no pot. And then we had all these sort of silly lyrics. It was pretty fun. There's my husband starting the car and leaving the house. Anyway, so the Be In, that was the skit that we did as the pot washers, and the children did a skit, and there was actually an 8-year-old boy who did a comedy routine that was actually really funny, I have to say. I was really impressed with his bravery. And there was an incredibly beautiful singer, a teenage girl who was an incredibly beautiful singer. So it was just really beautiful. And so that was the Be In. All right, so I'm just been rambling on. I'm probably talking in your ear enough about the family retreat. I just wanted to share it because it really makes an impact on me. And this is the last thing I want to share with you is what I'm taking away from this. And I think one of the biggest things I'm taking away from this week is a commitment to, I really want to make a commitment to not hurry. I have strong seeds of impatience in me and efficiency, right? Like we value efficiency so much, and I really want to let go of some of that efficiency and allow more spaciousness. I want to allow more buffer time I don't want to just get somewhere right on time and be a little anxious about getting somewhere. I want to allow time to stop and breathe and to notice the flowers. And I want to not be so hurried. I want to take my time. I'm doing pretty well with like doing one thing at a time. And I'm going to practice that even more to be present, just doing one thing at a time. And I do pretty well having boundaries around my work. I don't check email in the evening and I have a screen-free Sunday. But my big takeaway is I want to have less hurry and more spaciousness in my life. I want to slow down. And part of that is also, our internet life and things like that. I want to, it's interesting because when we were young, when I was a teenager, I had to like seek out information. I had to seek out like music, good music. I had to seek out like when there were shows. I had to seek out information about all kinds of different things. And now, as a generation, we all had to do that. We had to seek out things. And now, as I'm 39, so maybe I don't know how old you are, but you might be around this generation where actually now we have to stop seeking out things and we have to recognize that habit maybe and start to, in fact, protect ourselves from things. Like we don't have to do it all. We don't have to know about everything. I really want to let go of any FOMO, right? Fear of missing out, and just, there's only so much we can do. Let's just do what we're doing beautifully and with presence, like be fully here for what we are doing and not hurry. And that is what I'm really taking away is letting go of some hurry. And the other thing I'm taking away is to drop into myself a little bit more with my girls. We had a wonderful presentation, mindful parenting, from a woman who is now a parent who was formerly a nun, Fern, and I'm going to have her on the podcast, so you'll get to hear her too. Or maybe, I'm not sure when I'm going to release this, so maybe she's already been on, I'm not sure. But she talked about this practice of dropping into herself, and I really like that kind of imagery of, and I've been practicing this since I got home, of just kind of dropping in and pause. And really it's about pausing, right? But that pause, take that pause a little deeper and drop into your breath, drop into your body, come to you, what the real you, right? The gold underneath the plaster. There's a story of there were these, it was somewhere in Indonesia or somewhere in Asia where they found one of the biggest Buddhas ever, right? And it was a plaster Buddha. And at one point there was a crack in the plaster and they noticed there was gold underneath this plaster. So they took all the plaster off, and it's one of the largest gold Buddhas in the world. And so what they did is they plastered the Buddha to protect it. And I think we do that too, right? We plaster ourselves with busyness, with defenses, with stories to protect ourselves. And instead, I want to drop into that gold underneath. I want to drop into that real self, drop into myself with my daughters. And this is something also I'm taking away. And then the last thing I'm taking away is, and I was thinking about this as I dropped my daughter off at swim team this morning, I was looking at the beautiful lilies around the planted there. There was a lot of talk of flowers, like we water the flowers and other people, like we water we practice appreciation for them. We can practice freshness like a flower, right? This is a big part of the language of the family retreat at Blue Cliff and of the community of Thich Nhat Hanh. And I think I like this language of the flower, and this is kind of been imprinted in me, I guess, this idea of the flower and that freshness and just appreciating this amazing miracle of life, these flowers that are here, and taking the flowers that are around and using them as a symbol of this is our blooming, right? Like I am like that flower and you are like that flower, and you can bloom with awareness. You can bloom with compassion, with, you are an amazing, all the people around are like these amazing flowers of so many colors, and we are blooming here on earth. And I actually had this moment where we were driving back, and it's kind of, it's a little challenging to come back from this place where we slowed down so much and we paused and we stopped on the New Jersey Turnpike, and there's this rest stop where it's like, there's like a Cinnabon, and it's, it's this whole big thing. And we kind of I walked mindfully into the rest stop, but I had this moment, I guess maybe I was so fresh from the retreat, but I hope I can take it with me, right? I hope I can take this with me. But I had this moment of instead of seeing all the people in the rest stop and being like, this sucks, right? I actually had this moment of seeing them all as flowers, right? As beautiful flowers, all different colors and shapes and sizes. So that was really nice. So you, my dear listener, thank you so much for being here. You are also a flower, a beautiful flower, a miracle of this incredible life we live. And then the other thing I'm taking away is watering that flower, right? As flowers, we need to be watered. We need to water our own flowers. We need to appreciate ourselves, love and accept and appreciate ourselves. And then we can water the flowers of our children. We can, before maybe, we talk to them about something difficult, we can water their flower. We can tell them what we appreciate about them, right? So water the flowers, water their good seeds, water their flowers. And that's another thing I'm going to be taking away. So thank you so much, my friend. Thank you for listening. If you made it all the way through to hear this long sort of description of the family retreat, I really appreciate that. I really appreciate you here on the other side of this podcast, whenever it is, connecting to this. And I hope this podcast, my sharing, nourishes the seeds in you, right? Nourishes the seeds of mindfulness, of compassion, reminds you to appreciate the beauty around you, appreciate yourselves, maybe reminds you to slow down and not hurry. At least today, right? Maybe just the next hour, practice not hurrying, and practice to smile and appreciate your breathing. Thank you so much for listening to the Mindful Mama podcast. I hope you enjoy this episode about the family retreat. It was such an amazing thing, and I really have so much gratitude for the way they open up for us crazy families to arrive there. So if you have any questions, you can email me at hunter@hunterclarkefields.com, Clark with an E, Fields with an S. And I would really love it if you would subscribe and leave a rating. Remember, you can just click on the podcast app on your phone, search for the Mindful Mama podcast, and leave a review right there. It's so easy. And it really helps enormously. It makes a huge difference in the iTunes algorithm. Like, there's so many podcasts out there, It helps people find this one and hear this content and really get nourished. So please do leave a review and leave a rating and subscribe. Coming up in like a month, in September or so, if you're listening to this live when it happens, is the Mindful Parenting course, the live version of the course, and the really valuable live coaching that you get, and the live connection with other moms. And the cool thing about this is when you join the live course, you actually are in it for life. So I've had people who join the first Mindful Parenting course, and they join in the Q&A and the coaching for the next one, and they get to do it forever and ever, every spring and fall, forever. So it's really, really valuable. So I invite you to keep that in mind. Oh, and the other thing I want you guys to keep in mind is, if you are listening to this in real time, is that I'm holding another day-long retreat at the Winter Country Estate in Wilmington, Delaware. And that's going to be just a save the date. So it's going to be on October 21st. So write that down. October 21st, another Mindful Mama retreat at the Winter Estate in Delaware. And I don't have any registration for that, but mark your calendar. You can come check it out. Coming up in the next episode, I hope to have Carla back. So hopefully we'll be doing that. And don't forget to get your free audio guide, mindfulmomguide.com, to help you get your own mindfulness practice and get some of the benefits that we talked about in this, from this retreat, right? Condensed into your life. And thanks, Honey Bunny William Fields, for the music. Have a great week, my friends. Namaste. Are you a mom who wants to feel less stressed and enjoy motherhood more? Do you want to be calmer with your kids and be more present for all of your life? I'm a mom who has gone from really being stressed and yelling when my kids were young to having a more grounded, more at ease relationship with life and having more enjoyable cooperative relationships with my kids. And I've shown hundreds and thousands of women around the world how to do this. And I want to show you how to do it too. So if you are currently feeling stuck or stagnant, this is definitely for you. I've created a free downloadable Audible training, Mindfulness for Moms, the Superpower You Need. And it will show you how to respond rather than react, how to let go of stress and feel more grounded in seconds, how to have a smoother day today and become more present for your kids for a lifetime. To get on this audio training absolutely free, simply visit the website www.mindfulmomguide.com.